We welcome you to the DoDCast. Today, Ricky Keeler chats with Kevin Gehl of the Hagerstown Suns. He's their play-by-play voice.
So, first question I wanted to ask you is, what was your overall takeaway from the first half? I know the team didn't finish the way they would like to. What do you take away from everything before we dive into some specifics?
Yeah, this is it's pretty simple. Down the stretch, they have trouble with their bullpen. I mean, there are games when they can rely on their big bats to get them across the finish line, and unfortunately, they've lost a few too many pieces down the stretch where they were forced to play all these double headers where they don't have the depth in the pen. They don't have the depth right now without Soto and Keyboom. Noisy was hurt there for a little bit, so they just didn't have the offensive firepower or the arms to really get them there. Which I'll tell you straight up, I was shocked. I could not believe they just went so quietly down the stretch. No one could have seen that coming, but I do believe it's all those doubleheaders they had to play on the road. That just taxed them too much.
Was it a combination of all the doubleheaders plus the injuries that they've had finally caught up with them?
I think so. I mean, there's a couple games there where, I think in the back end of one of those doubleheaders, and I can pull this up here. We want to talk more about this. They had one run on 3 hits. That's not this team. The only other time I saw that happen was against Dane Dunning, a former Nationals draft pick who just absolutely dominated when he came here and won a 7-inning game. So they just didn't look like themselves. I think it was a little panicky, but also how many levels of baseball does a team like Kannapolis have a chance to make up 4 games in less than 28 hours? I mean, that's just freaky. And I think once they lost the first game of the second doubleheader back-to-back last week, it was probably it was some sort of panic mode. So, yeah, I think it was kind of a perfect storm that prevented them from winning that title because they were clearly the best team in the first half. In that division, they certainly were.
Now, 2 key prospects everybody was looking forward to seeing, Carter Kieboom and Juan Soto. They went on the DL earlier in the year. But what impressed you the most about those 2 players, and can you tell us anything about their status for the second half?
Yeah, I got to tell you, Carter Kieboom was just a phenomenal bat in the lineup, batting second, getting on base, getting over, scoring runs, and his glove was really rounding into form as well. I think that's what impressed me the most about him is he's a guy that works really hard in the cage, on the field, and I think he is a professional level hitter. I think he was the moment they drafted him, because if you look at his numbers in the GCL, they weren't overwhelming. I mean, they were middle-of-the-road stats, but the way he really rounded into shape the first couple weeks before he pulled up lame running through first base was really a sign that his growth curve is huge. I mean, he's already got all the talent in the world, and he'll continue to work hard and get where he needs to go. I don't have an update on his injury. We are hoping that he'll be back sooner than later. Selfishly, we hope he'll be back sooner than later because if you take this offensive lineup and you put Soto and Keyboom back in there, batting 2 and 3, Keyboom second, Soto third, they're the class of the league, no doubt. And selfishly, again, in an odd way, you never want to see anyone get hurt, but we were looking around thinking, okay, Keyboom and Soto at this rate would never be around for the postseason. They're the kind of guys that you'd probably be looking to promote. But now, because they've been stymied here with different injuries, I'd be surprised if they were to finish the season other than right here in Hagerstown. And Soto was, a situation where just a couple days before Keyboom got hurt against the Rome Braves, same team, both players got hurt. Soto was at home, slid in home plate, got his ankle tied up on the slide. He hobbled off the field right away. It was his right ankle. It was pretty clear right away what that was. He has not been back with the team. You may have seen he's posted some social media pictures where he's got cleats on and he doesn't have an ankle brace, and he's talking about having faith and getting better. So take that what you will. I don't have any timeline on when he would be back, but again, we're certainly hoping that they will be back here in Hagerstown sooner than later. I do believe they will be back. I hope they will be back. But again, only time will tell, because these two are phenomenal prospects, and they would absolutely be crazy to rush them back in any way. There is no hurry, because they are hopefully the shortstop and the right fielder of the future at the major league level.
It feels like when I watch this offense, Kevin, the one word I think of is resiliency, because it seemed like every single night, at least from afar, there was always somebody different that was the hero. Hagerstown had so many comeback wins and extra inning wins and walk-off wins. You look up one night and there's a different player stepping up with a huge hit every game.
What really impressed me was the fact that they had so much flexibility in their lineup to have guys step up to the plate in clutch situations like that. I mean, to piggyback on what we were saying about Carter Kieboom and Juan Soto being such key figures, Juan Soto would just go up there and just rip the ball wherever he needed. Guys would try to shift against him. Nah, he could go the other way. He could pull it down the right field line. He's the hardest hitting lefty I've seen at this Class A level, and that includes my time in the Midwest League. I mean, he just looks like an 18-year-old professional, ready-made to go up the ladder right now. Okay, he gets hurt. Well, here's the good news. You've got the best home run hitter in the league at this point, Daniel Johnson, batting ninth in the order. I mean, think about that. You've got the guy who had more home runs than anybody else in the first half, batting ninth. You had Aldrin Corridor, who, you know, guys were looking at him thinking, okay, he's probably your backup first baseman, because you've got Noisy over at third. Anderson Franco's not going to play there much, so you move him over to first. As he projects as a corner infielder, where does Aldrin Corridor go? Well, Aldrin Corridor is up there leading the league in doubles for a couple days. He is an all-star starter at first base in the all-star game coming up tonight. He was batting eighth in the order, and he has 3 walk-offs this year. So it's amazing. You lose Soto and Kieboom, you move your 8 and 9 hitters for the most part just into the 2 and 3 spots, and they just keep on cooking like nothing ever happened. So that resilience, that, you know, that bug that they all caught together during that, you know, April-May stretch where just the baseball looked like a beach ball, was just really something to behold. And again, that's why it was so surprising in the last week or so to just see the offense go quietly against pitchers in Lexington, Kentucky, and Kannapolis, North Carolina, when they they led by 2.5 games with 5 days left, and they just couldn't slam the door because for the first time in a long time, that offense didn't have the firepower.
You brought up the name Daniel Johnson, and you mentioned he was starting the year in the 9 spot, and I don't know if anybody could have seen this coming, where he hit 1 home run at Auburn last year, and now he's one of the best home run hitters in the entire South Atlantic League. What impressed you about his power? Because I know prospects develop differently, but you rarely see a guy go from 1 homer in 50 games to the 10-plus that he has.
Yeah, he's been so much fun to watch. He's another guy that, you know, I'll tell you, his glove is really impressive too. I kind of read about him as an offensive first sort of corner outfielder that the Washington Nationals were going to try to develop as, you know, maybe like a Beatty Robles. But the guy I've seen, and again, like you said, you see his home run totals leading up to this season, and you're thinking, okay, well, maybe that's what they want from him. But instead, he's morphed into this guy that you can't seem to get out. And at the very least, he has that awesome power to right field that makes him so much fun to watch. He had a friend come to town from back home in San Francisco, and this was early in the season. So I said to him, what do you think about your boy DJ batting 8th or 9th in the order? And he said, I've never seen him not bat in the middle of the order. I mean, this is a guy who was, you know, he led his high school, Jesse Bethel, in the North San Francisco Bay Area. He's their record holder in slugging percentage. He was the WAC Player of the Year at New Mexico State, and it wasn't because he couldn't hit for power. So I think maybe it was the 1 home run in 62 games in Auburn that was sort of the blip on the radar, because he's got his stride again. He competed in the All-Star Game Home Run Derby last night in Columbia, South Carolina, a home run derby won by Sheldon Noisy, but he'll be starting in right field in the All-Star Game, which I say again is stunning, because earlier on this season. To a man, everybody who saw him play would have told you that if he was healthy, Juan Soto would have been starting in that right field spot in Columbia, South Carolina. And that's not to take anything away from DJ. That's just to shine a light on how impressive he was at that spot.
You mentioned Noisy and the home run derby winner last night, 37 RBIs so far this season. And it helps when you have a guy that can go from third to short and then back to third. You mentioned all the versatility, but Noisy is one of those guys that, reading a lot of scouting reports on him, that the power just stands out. And he's got almost 20 walks. He's doing a good job staying patient at the plate, too.
Yeah, he's got a few more strikeouts than he'd like. But what I've been impressed with Noisy, and I think you're hitting on the right spot there, Ricky, is that I've seen him go up there in swing mode so many times where he swings at the first pitch, he knows exactly what he's sitting on, he knows exactly what's coming, and he rips it for extra bases. Or, more impressively, in the last couple weeks or so, I've seen him sit back and really work a count and still get that big-time result. I mean, there was a stretch there where Noisy came back from the disabled list, and he was on the road in Greensboro, North Carolina. He went 1 for 11, just trying to get back into shape. And then he came back home, and in 2 days, he had 5 extra base hits. He had 2 triples in 1 game. So, again, and I don't know where I got this impression from, but standing around the cage early on, I saw a guy who's like 6 feet tall, 200-plus pounds, and I just kind of, I said, okay, he must be sort of a hard hitter, like a power slugger. Well, he runs the bases really well. There was a time there, believe it or not, nearly going where he was neck and neck with Blake Perkins, who is the toolsiest player on this team for stolen base leader. So I've been impressed the way he moves around the base paths and having that ability to move from shortstop, where he was Big 12 shortstop of the year at Oklahoma, over to third because, they want to keep Keeboom at short. He did that with aplomb. He makes those throws look easy over to first, and then, boom, Keeboom gets hurt. He goes right back to shortstop. And it's like he never missed a beat. And to a man, all these guys have said over and over that confidence on the infield has been so key for them because they've got Jake Knoll playing every day at second base. Aldrin Corridor has become very sure-handed over at first base. He's a 21-year-old that he's got to have people salivating up and down the system with the way his bat is coming around and as solid as his glove has looked. So infield defensively, when these Suns are healthy, Noisy is a key part of them being a very sure-handed defense.
Switching gears over to the mound, and the Suns have two starting pitchers that were selected to the All-Star team, Mackenzie Mills and Tyler Watson. Can you tell me a little bit about both of those pitchers?
Yeah, absolutely. Mackenzie Mills is a very interesting piece of the puzzle because he's a kid that admitted before the year, or at least I should say 2 years ago, he admitted to a paper up in Auburn, New York, when he was playing with the Doubledays in Class A short season ball, that he just was, things were moving a little fast for him. He knew he was a guy drafted out of high school in Marietta, Georgia, same hometown as Carter Keeboom, in fact. And he said, when you get drafted, guys look at you like, hey, what do you got? What's so great about you that you were drafted straight out of high school? And he certainly struggled that first year, 2015 in Auburn. Something switched over in his mind last year. They've really been talking with him about dominating that grip on the breaking ball, making it his own. And Sammy Nairn, the pitching coach here in Hagerstown, does such a great job with these young pitchers, and he's so positive with them. And what's so enticing about Mackenzie Mills is he's got a slider that's so sharp and a breaking ball that he can really lob in there. They look and fire so similarly until the last minute when they break in completely different directions. So he's done a good job of keeping batters off balance. He has been the ace of this staff. He has the best ERA among these arms, and he was second on the team in strikeouts behind Tyler Watson, who is a really interesting prospect because similar story, drafted out of high school in suburban Phoenix, Arizona. He was a guy, it took him 5 starts to get a win because for one reason or another, the best offense in the league just wasn't getting him any run support. But he was doing a good job of managing games. His fastball is not wipeout. I mean, it's high 80s, low 90s at its best, but he can fire in some change-ups and some curveballs that really look good as secondary options. And I think that's why he is the strikeout leader on this team, because he has really been the guy that is able to force those hitters into counts and situations where they truly don't know what's coming next. They have not been able to touch him from there. So those have certainly been your two best pitchers. The bullpen has been a work in progress throughout the year. Jordan Mills, with his devastating slider, was certainly the relief ace in the first half. But because of that, a guy that was out of affiliated baseball last year, he was playing in the Can-Am League in Quebec, just decided not to give up after he was cut by the Astros, got signed by the Nationals early this year, back in January. He's been working hard on his game, and rightfully so, he's been promoted to advanced Potomac. So, unfortunately, I think that was really tough on the Suns. They lost a guy that was really reliable at the back end of that pen, a guy that was leading the team in saves at that point. He had rattled off 14-plus innings of scoreless baseball at one point in this first half. So they've got young arms, they've got developing guys in the bullpen, they've got guys that they want to move into a starting role, and they just haven't had any set positions, let's say a setup guy or a closer. They don't have, if we get to this inning, we can hand it off to this guy and this guy and this guy. And typically that's not the case with most minor league clubs, but if the Suns in the second half can just find Mr. Reliable that can give them one or two great innings at the end of these ball games, then they'll be pretty untouchable if healthy.
I was listening to one of your broadcasts earlier in the season. You talked about an interesting pitch that Sterling Sharp has, and he's one of the better guys on the team with 8 walks and 10 starts. He shows great control. Can you tell us a little bit about that pitch and where he got it from?
Oh, absolutely. I think this is the most interesting pitch I've seen in a while. It's a screwball changeup hybrid, which we've been jokingly referring to as a screw-up, as a combination of the screwball changeup. It is something that you have seen before at the Major League level, and a buddy of his is throwing it for the Oakland A's. It's Gehl, who, of course, was a big piece coming up in the Los Angeles Dodgers system before Billy Beane and the A's acquired him for Josh Reddick, in fact. And in the offseason, Gehl and Sterling Sharp were working out together and teaching at All Fields Hitting, which is a facility in Southfield, Michigan, just outside Detroit. That is Sterling's hometown. So they just started playing with this pitch and working on things, and Sterling has taken that from the bullpen. He made one relief outing out of the pen, and that did not go well. And then they pushed him into a starting pitcher's role because the Suns lost a few starting arms to injuries early this season, and you mentioned that walk rate. I mean, it is microscopic, because what this screwball changeup hybrid does is it just falls off the table. I mean, when it gets to you as a hitter at the plate, you don't know where it's going. And of course, like a good sinker does, it stays down low. It induces a ton of ground outs. And more interestingly than that, Sterling Sharp can mix up the way he actually kicks and throws that pitch. I mean, he will kind of stutter step before he gets going. He will leg kick quickly and then fire it in. Then he'll kind of slow things down to the point that someone actually got some video of Sterling from an outfield camera, and it fell into the hands of Marcus Stroman with the Toronto Blue Jays, who is a master at this, of keeping batters off rhythm and off timing. And no coincidence, Sterling calls him one of his favorite Major League pitchers. And he was literally marveling online, saying, like, oh, okay, I see what this kid is doing. So that made its rounds around social media, getting some love from a big-time major leaguer like that. He's just a really cool kid, and I love the way he talks about the game. He talks like a mad scientist in different ways. Okay, I'm going to look over at third base when I want some more sink, or I'm going to grip it like this, or I'm going to pinpoint this on my squeeze of the baseball to try to do. To be honest, when he was talking about it, he kind of lost me about halfway through, because he was just getting so specific about what he was going to do with everything. And of course, a good chef doesn't always reveal all their secrets. So I think he was giving me the basics, but he really is a guy that's been intriguing to watch. And by keeping guys off base, when he keeps the ball down, if he avoids the air outs and some of the home run bugaboos that have been a bit of a problem at different points. He's able to avoid that. I mean, he's arguably the third starter on this staff behind two All-Stars.
This is your first year broadcasting games at Hagerstown. What's been your favorite part about the job, and what's unique about the South Atlantic League compared to, I know last year I think you were in Lansing, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct. Everything is unique about Hagerstown Municipal Stadium. It's the third oldest minor league ballpark in affiliated ball. So, I mean, it is like stepping back in time. We have a press box that sits on top of the old canopy roof. I can look right down on the action. There are days when, you know, if you start screaming or getting excited about the action, the sound of the broadcast, we're so close to the field, it will actually carry down to the diamond. I've had players and Sammy Narin, our pitching coach, in fact, even comment or answer questions that I was talking about on air because they can hear the broadcast sort of reaching down to the field. What I love about it is, you know, it's just it's a way to watch baseball that you don't get a lot of chances to see anymore. The only two ballparks that are older are in Asheville, North Carolina, which is another stop on the South Atlantic League Tour, and the home of the Vermont Lake Monsters in Burlington, Vermont. I mean, those are the only two. So when we really reach out to Washington Nationals fans from around the region and D.C. specifically, we say, hey, you know, not only are you going to see a lot of prospects here, a lot of, you know, future major league hitters especially, you're going to see baseball in a way that just is sort of going by the wayside. And it's very family friendly. Every seat is a good seat. And after we got through all that rain in April and May, I mean, we rained out so many games. It was really sort of amazing to see how this team overcame all of those rain delays and played so well in so many doubleheader games early on. And the other thing I like best about Hagerstown so far is having the Washington Nationals nearby. I mean, we see a lot of people like you from the media that come down or come up, I should say, from D.C. and can see these guys up close and personal. And the Nationals are clearly an organization that are in a win-now situation. I mean, the window is wide open at the major league level to get that pennant right now. So with all these talents in Hagerstown in the second half, I'm going to be keeping a close eye on guys that, you know, could end up being the prospect in that deal to say, oh, I don't know, get a bullpen arm that D.C. could really use right now. So the second half is going to be very interesting because the Suns have not locked up their playoff spot, which is still stunning for me to say because they were the class of this division in the first half. They're going to be fighting hard to try to peak late into the season, and perhaps, as you understand, teams that are better in the second half more often win the title because your first half team gets broken up by promotion, demotion, injuries, trade, what have you. Let's see what the Suns can do in the second half, and who's going to be that big piece that gets moved for someone in D.C. to try to lock up a World Series for the Nats. It's going to be very interesting to watch.
You talked about the bullpen earlier, but and potentially prospects being traded. The Hagerstown's already had one with I think was Mick Van Vossen going in the Rayburn deal.
Yeah, that's right. That was a player to be named later situation. We were a few weeks after Rayburn was picked up, and you know we got the call from our staff saying, "Hey, it's going to be Van Vossen." We thought, "Oh, for who?" "Oh, Ryan Rayburn." "Oh, okay." And interestingly enough, Mick Van Vossen, his first appearance with his new team in Kannapolis was against the Hagerstown Suns when they were down there for that, let's call it tragic doubleheader sweep in 2 days. So Mick, who's a Michigan State alum who actually covered with the Spartans when I was in Lansing, Michigan the last 5 years, very good kid, excited at a chance in a new organization. He's already been a piece that's been moved, and I mean, the sky's the limit for a lot of these guys. I'm thinking, you know, people have been asking me all the time, which one of these guys would you move? And to be honest, it's like picking your favorite child. I mean, how do you divorce yourself from looking at these guys every day and think the Nationals should give up on them right now? And again, it's not my job to worry about what's going on in D.C., but I'm looking around right now and I'm thinking, even with the injury, there's no way you can move Juan Soto right now. He's arguably one of their best hitting prospects since Bryce Harper came through here. So how can you move him? Keeler looks like Mr. Reliable at shortstop, and he's got the bat to back it up. Sheldon Noisy just won the home run derby. What are you going to do with him? Daniel Johnson, he's he's a tremendous defensive outfielder with a big bat. I mean, how do you even begin to try to decide which one of these guys you move now? Because the way they've already advanced in less than a year and a half of baseball makes me think that the sky's the limit for each and every one of them.
Last question for you, Kevin. You, of course, got to call earlier this month the Tim Tebow series when Columbia came in. So what was that atmosphere like as a play-by-play announcer for you?
I'll tell you, Ricky, I've never seen anything like it. I've covered a lot of sporting events at a lot of different levels, and it's Tebow mania has reached the only comparison I can make, and it's a comparison a lot of people have made, having talked with guys I know in the Southern League at the AA level, is when Michael Jordan came through with the Birmingham Barons. I mean, we had people lining up hours ahead of time, going to the team hotel here in Hagerstown, women handing us sealed envelopes with marriage proposals. And I'm not talking about joke marriage proposals. I'm talking about women who told us to our faces, I have a connection with that man through Christ. I want to marry him, and I believe that we'll end up together. And they tell it to you with authority. And you just go, my goodness, I've never seen anything like this with any other athlete. And that, to me, is the most interesting thing, because he's not an athlete to these people. He is. Somebody asked me during that series, what can Tim Tebow do next? And I said, honestly, at this point, I think Tim Tebow can do whatever he wants. Politics, sure. He's already a writer. He's got a book that's selling well. He can speak. He can. I don't know whatever he wants to do. He's the Pied Piper. People are going to go and follow and support whatever he does because they like the way he lives his life. I was very impressed myself with the way he invited children with special needs. He has his Night to Shine prom event, which is a prom for special needs students. And after the final game of the series, he invited 60 of them down onto the field. And just watching his face light up when he's with those kids, I mean, he dutifully signs autographs for fans that are just gathered by the bus. But he doesn't do that with the shine and passion that he does for people that are really in need. And I think that's where he really is living up. He's practicing what he preaches, as they so often say. And for us, when you put all that aside, it was just great business for us. I mean, we were told by Baseball America to expect somewhere in excess of $43,000 extra dollars per game in added revenue when Tim Tebow comes to town. And we were sitting around $50,000. So in a 4-game series, we picked up an extra $200,000 worth of revenue that we were not expecting when we budgeted before the season, one day before Tim Tebow made his announcement that he was coming to the Fireflies. So to say he's been good for the league is an understatement. To say that he's been good for minor league baseball, I think, is absolutely true. Because, look, Ricky, people are dogging this guy for his numbers. I don't know what he's sitting at today. He left here batting about .214. But look, I'll be honest with you. There are big-time prospects for a lot of these teams that have been given a lot more bonus money than Tim Tebow and aren't batting much better, that are sitting around .220. He's just trying to make up for lost time. He's a decade behind. He cannot get in the batting cage enough. And his hitting coach has been driven bananas by this because Tim has the work ethic. He wants to be good at this. I don't believe that this is some sort of media ploy. Sure, he is making money from this. He's adding to his brand. He's certainly not hurting anybody, or certainly not hurting himself by doing this. We could argue about if he's holding a spot from another prospect, but he's not. I mean, he is a low-impact risk that the Mets are taking, and it's just a matter of time before I'm thinking he gets called up. They send him to Port St. Lucie, maybe down in Florida, to try to energize that level, or maybe more fittingly, they send him to Binghamton in New York at the AA Eastern League level, and then that would set him up for potentially a jump to the Mets next year. If the Mets are way out of it next September, let's say, and Tim's sitting there in Binghamton in AA, if he continues on, why not just call him up and get a little bit of that Tebow effect at Citi Field? No one knows for sure. I've asked around with people in the Mets system, but if the Mets aren't really in this thing again next year, why not just try to get a little bit of that Tebow effect in Queens?
Definitely, and you talk about how his numbers aren't great, but it's not easy, especially I remember watching some of his games earlier this year where he hits a home run his first at bat in pro ball. That's definitely not easy to do.
When he's in, I've told a couple people, he's like Charles Barkley. I remember when Charles Barkley did that show with Hank Haney on the Golf Channel where, okay, we're going to fix Charles Barkley's horrendous golf swing. He'd be out on the driving range and he looked good because he's got Hank there, he's feeling good, he's just swinging easy, and then you go to the first tee, and for anyone that's played golf, they can appreciate this. It's just different. He gets robotic, Ricky. He swings so freely before the game, and then he gets up to the plate, and it's like he's got too much information in his head. He plays such a robotic left field, and he's playing so shallow because he's afraid of letting doubles get past him. I mean, literally the first crack of the bat in that series was a short liner to him in left. And I won't say it was a diving catch. It was a falling catch. He kind of just sort of clunkily threw himself at the ball, and he was able to make the catch, and he had another ball evade him later in that series that sort of took some bad English around him. But it just seems like he's got too much information in his head. He's thinking way too hard. But who can blame him? Who can take this game off 10 years and stroll back up?
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, hit a home run in their first quote-unquote at-bat at the South Atlantic League level. That, you have to be a freaky athlete to even come close to doing something like that. So, like Bull Durham said, if he could find some way to get like one little extra blooper per week and push that batting average toward 240, 250, then all of a sudden you're going, okay, maybe there is something that we could do with this guy. But as it stands right now, if he is going to be a pure power hitter and not hit for average, he's got to find a way to put more balls out of the yard, and he's got to find a way to make more contact.
So, Kevin, before we wrap this up, how can the listeners follow you on Twitter, and what do you want? Anything else you want to tell them about the team or the ballpark and what's going on with Hagerstown in the second half?
So easy to follow the Hagerstown Suns. We're on all the social media at Hagerstown Suns, on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. I'm writing up post-game recaps each and every day. If you're looking for Hagerstown Suns coverage, you can also log on to HagerstownSuns.com. We've got a great ball club here that's loaded with prospects. And like I said, in the second half, this could be that fertile recruiting ground that the Nats need to sort of make that trade to lock up their postseason fate. And then you can also follow me at Kevin Gehl, Gehl, Suns, Suns, Kevin Gehl Suns. That's on Twitter. I'm on Instagram as well. Try to give you, sort of a deeper look at what the Suns are doing and kind of keep you plugged in. Hopefully we're going to get this All-Star game in tonight. I'm sure by the time your listeners hear this, we'll find out something about that. But wouldn't that be a shame to go all the way down to Columbia, South Carolina, this thing get rained out? Don't forget as well, the Hagerstown Suns staff, manager Patrick Anderson, pitching coach Sammy Narin, and hitting coach Amari Garcia. They are all back down there together again for the second consecutive year, managing the Northern All-Stars. And for Patrick Anderson, in his fourth year, this is already his third All-Star game. I mean, he's really done a tremendous job with these prospects in Hagerstown. We have some old facilities, we have an old yard, but somehow, some way, in each of his seasons, he has been squeezing the best out of these kids. And I know the Nationals have to be thrilled about the progress they've seen here in Hagerstown. It's been a lot of fun to watch, Ricky. And again, if you're within driving distance of the Suns ballpark, Hagerstown Municipal Stadium, come on out. I mean, tickets are cheap. We've got all you can eat every Monday. We've got fireworks every Friday. We've got a Sunday family fun day where you can come out to the yard and play catch with your kids on the field before the game. You can run the bases after. And we've got a whole lot of other cool giveaways coming up in the second half, including a Nick Adenhart bobblehead that we're very excited about. Nick Adenhart, of course, the tremendous pitching talent that was taken from us far too early, a member of the LA Angels who was killed in a car accident. He is a local product from right down the road in Williamsport. So this is going to be a second half that's going to mean so much to the Suns as they chase the playoffs, and it's going to be a whole heck of a lot of fun to watch.
Kevin, again, thanks for the time. Best of luck in the second half, and thanks for coming on. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely, Ricky. Thank you.
We'd like to thank Kevin for appearing today with Ricky on the DoDCast. You can follow Kevin at Kevin Gehl Suns on Twitter. You can follow Ricky at Rickinator555 on Twitter, and the DoDCast itself at District on Deck. Give this video a like and subscribe for more interviews and post-game reactions.